Tonight on The Wrap, we report from inside Iran. Sky's Dominic Waghorn is the first international journalist to visit the scene of a strike on a school in which 120 children were killed on the first day of the war. Despite an initial finding that it carried out the attack, the United States is still to admit responsibility.
Quite overwhelming, child after child, grave after grave, and almost 3 months on, the families still coming every evening to spend hours by their children's graveside.
Meanwhile, tonight, President Trump reveals that US strikes on Iran had been due to resume tomorrow, but he's holding off for now to give negotiations another chance. Also tonight, as one of the Prime Minister's leading rivals makes his pitch for a return to Parliament, Sir Keir Starmer insists he isn't going anywhere.
I am clear about what I am offering. If I get to stand, a vote for me will be a vote to change Labour, because Labour needs to change.
I've said, I don't know how many times, that I'm not going to walk away. I feel very strongly that I must serve the people who voted me into office.
Channel 4 rejects claims that it neglected its duty of care after allegations of rape are made by contestants on its Married at First Sight programme. Plus, Kylie Minogue tells Sky News of her pride in raising public awareness of breast cancer after her own diagnosis.
I know in my very dark moments that I needed things to kind of hold on to, and if I've done that for someone else, then I'm very, very touched by that.
Plus, a first look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers, including coverage of the continuing questions over the Labour leadership. Hello there, good evening. We begin tonight with the Iran war. President Trump has said this evening that the US military was poised to renew its attacks on Iran tomorrow, but he's decided to hold off for now because serious negotiations are taking place. We'll have more on that from Washington in a moment. But first, we want to bring you exclusive reporting from inside Iran. As the war began, more than 150 people, including 120 children, were killed in a strike on a primary school in the southern part of the country. Although a first investigation by the US military determined that Washington was responsible, the Trump administration is yet to formally accept that was the case. Well, the strike happened on the 28th of February, the first day of the war. The school was in the city of Minab, 700 miles from Tehran. Sky's Dominic Waghorn is the first international journalist to visit the site of the attack. A warning that you may find the content of his report distressing.
Dawn, deep in the south of Iran. We're reaching the end of a 4-day journey. Heading for a place now infamous in the story of this war. As we enter the town of Minab, there are reminders everywhere of its terrible tragedy. We've come to the primary school that was hit on the first day of the conflict by precision-guided American missiles. We're the first journalists from outside of Iran to film here since the attack. There are still so many unanswered questions about what happened here. We meet brothers Fazl and Reza, who rushed to help after the missiles came in.
We were faced with an unbelievably horrifying scene. There were pieces of bodies everywhere. Hands, heads, a child's torso without limbs, all burned. All of this area was full of body parts. We were terrified and in shock. We were wondering if we were in a nightmare or awake and couldn't believe what we were seeing.
The missiles struck in the middle of the morning when the school was full of children, causing enormous loss of life. Staff at the school had already realised that Iran was under attack that morning and called parents to take their children home.
Most of them didn't get here in time. Survivors say that most of the children, the girls on the upper floor of the school, were moved to that end of the building to a prayer room for their safety. When the missiles struck, they killed many children and teachers on impact, but they also tragically collapsed completely that end of the school, trapping and killing many more. 11-year-old Parastesh was on the school's upper floor when the missiles landed. She somehow survived but was badly injured. Her little brother, 9-year-old Aliaskar, was killed. She showed us his toys and his backpack found in the rubble and told us how she raced to help him that morning before a second explosion tore them apart.
اینجوری دستمو میخواستم بذارم رو شونش که بیارم طرف خودم که دومی رو زد ته شد. خیلی فاصله نبود که دیگه بهش برسم. میخواستم بیارم سمت خودم، فکر میکردم اگه بیارم سمت خودم در امانه.
Parastesh was found under rubble on the floor below. She was severely burned and spent weeks in hospital recovering. Jawad, their father, told us how proud he'd been of his son.
هم از هوشش بیشترم عاشق فوتبال بود، با عاشق مدرسه بود. مدرسه رو خیلی دوست داشتم، با فوتبال دنبال من می اومد. دوست داشت همیشه با بزرگترا بشینه، نه با کوچکا. اینجوری بود.
The loss of Aliaskar, he says, is impossible to take in.
من حقیقت تا الانم باور ندارم که پسرم نیست و شهید شده. تا الانم باور ندارم. دیگه تا هنوزم باور ندارم که علی اصغر نیست. حس میکنه همیشه تو خونه است.
Minab has had to extend the town's cemetery to bury all the dead. They come here every night to hold vigil for their children.
This is actually quite overwhelming. Child after child, grave after grave, and almost 3 months on, the families still coming every evening to spend hours by their children's graveside. And talking to some of them, of course, is deeply moving.
Mohammed Taha should have been celebrating his 10th birthday this night. Instead, his mother Khadija and family are by his grave mourning him.
دوست دارم یه بار شده ببینمش بغلش بگیرم بار صداشو بشنوم ذوق کردناشو میدونم اونجا خیلی جاش خوبه ولی من دلتنگش
They made a cake for Mohammed. Happy birthday, they sang. May you live for 100 years. If there is an explanation for this atrocity, we haven't heard it yet. The evidence points to America. Iranians say these are pieces of US-made Tomahawk cruise missiles collected at the site. And we know America attacked several other places nearby that day.
Whatever other targets there were in the area, the point to stress is this was a primary school. It had been for more than a decade and was clearly marked on maps. And yet it was struck, it seems, right in the centre of the building by missiles that are accurate within a few metres. It was either deliberately targeted, which would be a war crime, or it was misidentified, potentially equally a breach of the rules of war. Now, after similar incidents in Iraq and Afghanistan, America has admitted responsibility within a few days or at the most a few weeks. All it's said for almost 3 months now is this is being investigated.
They are stalked here by the spectre of war returning. It's not at all clear to what extent this appalling tragedy is being investigated and what's been learned to make sure nothing like this can happen again if hostilities resume. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Minab.
Well, as you can see, we're now joined by Baroness Arlene Foster and Kevin Maguire. We'll certainly get your thoughts on this in just a moment. But first of all, let's just go to our US correspondent, Mark Stone, and such powerful reporting there, Mark, from Dominic inside Iran. And his report you've tried to put directly to President Trump.
Yes, I have to say, with not much luck in terms of a response, but such is the unique way that this particular president communicates, I thought it worth sending him a link to that report that you've just watched there to ask for his response. As I say, nothing yet. I sent it a few hours ago. We also, of course, have sent it to officials at the Pentagon through the regular press office, but also I've sent it to other contacts there. And again, no response. Our OSINT team, our data and forensics team, have behind the scenes, pretty much since that attack happened on the 28th of April, our team there has been working very hard to examine precisely what happened. And a while ago, they put some of their findings to the Pentagon, some of their findings which we haven't yet published all of them. And what they said is nothing to provide due to ongoing investigation. Thanks for reaching out. And that is echoed right around newsrooms, many of whom have been doing their own investigations. Nothing is coming out of official channels at the Pentagon. They are just not revealing what they are doing. We don't know who's investigating. We don't know what that investigation has concluded. And we don't know when, if at all, anything will be published, which, of course, as Dom says, raises real questions about whether this could happen again. Now, there has been speculation that artificial intelligence was used to select different targets, and then humans were only brought in at the last minute to then either approve or reject those targets. Again, this is conjecture. We don't know for sure, because the Pentagon hasn't given us any detail on it all. And last Thursday, when the commander of US Central Command, Admiral Brad Cooper, he was on Capitol Hill, where he was forced to testify, as happens from time to time, in front of lawmakers, Congress people and senators. They pushed him on this attack and suggestions that many other schools have been attacked as well. And he had no suitable answers to give other than there is an investigation ongoing. So this is deeply troubling. It's very unsatisfactory, and it's heartbreaking for the people of Minab, as Dominic viscerally showed us in that report.
And meanwhile, we are expecting to hear from Donald Trump tonight on other matters, just as he says he's pulling back from another major assault on Iran, a renewed assault reigniting this war, which was due to have taken place tomorrow.
Yeah, which is news to us. We didn't know that he was definitely planning on resuming the war tomorrow. There had been some suggestions that things were not looking good. We know at the beginning of last week he had said that he wasn't going to that he wasn't satisfied with Iran's response to the negotiation proposal, which has been going on through the Pakistanis for some time. He didn't do anything about it, probably because he then went straight to China, and he didn't want to be in an active shooting match with the Iranians while he was in China. The expectation came that by this weekend or into this week, perhaps he would do something. But against that, and by the way, he was supposed to speak to his security chiefs tomorrow and has already spoken to Benjamin Netanyahu. So that all suggested, taken together, that perhaps something was about to happen. But against that, this is a president who does not want to return to war. This is a president who had thought this war would last a very short space of time. This is a president who didn't realize the economic chaos it would cause with the Strait of Hormuz and all the rest of it. So perhaps this is a president who's backed himself into a corner, which is why he is now backing off from an apparent resumption of the war. He tweeted, I'll read a bit of it to you, "We will not be doing the scheduled attack of Iran tomorrow, but have further instructed them to be prepared to go forward with a full large-scale assault of Iran on a moment's notice if the event in the event that an acceptable deal is not reached." So once again, the president shifting things to the right. Some might say the president chickening out once again.
Yes, indeed. Mark, thank you very much indeed. And worth noting, he had been persuaded by Gulf allies, hadn't he? The Emir of Qatar, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia and the President of the UAE as well to hold off on that planned military attack on Iran. Well, welcome, Kevin and Arlene. Very good to see both of you. Dominic's reporting there. You know, there are still so many questions. What happened here? What went wrong? How are targets chosen as well? As you see those families, you know, racked with questions amidst their grief.
Well, it's very difficult to watch, especially when you're listening to the stories of families who have lost their children, and those of us who have children know how painful that must be. But it also goes to show that war is so indiscriminate, and this is what happens in a wartime situation. And I, for one, am glad that there's not a full-scale war happening again tomorrow, for whatever reason, and we can all speculate as to what the reasons are. But I hope it's because he has listened to those voices from the Middle East, which you've just spoken about, and that he has taken counsel in relation to what to do next.
I mean, we see with the war by Israel on Gaza as well, you know, investigations will be held after the conclusion. Do you think the Minab school incident will be properly investigated? Do you have confidence it will be properly investigated by the Trump administration at the conclusion of this war with Iran?
I think most of us would have less confidence in the Trump administration investigating something properly than we had in previous administrations. And truth is the first casualty of war. You slow it down. You don't want to admit it. Trump himself, I recall, saying it could have been somebody else's cruise missile, not an American one. And he was very triumphalist at the beginning of the war when he assassinated the Ayatollah, very senior members of the regime in Tehran. And it was almost like a video game for him. And, of course, now he's locked in a stalemate. And that regime hasn't fallen. A brutal regime, it's got to be said. It didn't want the world to see when it was killing its own people, but it wants us to see when Americans are killing its people. But there's a military stalemate because, of course, Trump threatened nuclear weapons at one point, end the civilization. I mean, he could do that, but you can't open the Strait of Hormuz quite easily because it's a choke point. No, I don't really have any full confidence we will get the truth from the Americans on this, no.
OK, well, let's head back to America. More breaking news from there. Police in San Diego say that 2 teenagers who killed 3 men at an Islamic centre have been shot and killed. This is about 9 miles north of downtown San Diego. David Blevins has joined us. Forgot to introduce you, apologies. What have we just had a police news conference, haven't we? What have we learned?
Yes, Anna, details are still a bit sketchy as we speak, but let me tell you what we know at around 11:40 Pacific time. That's around 7:40 p.m. in the UK. Police say they received reports of an active shooter at the Islamic Centre of San Diego. Aerial footage shows a very heavy police and SWAT response to this incident. And within the last few minutes, police have confirmed 5 fatalities, 3 victims and 2 suspects. Now, this really did cause real concern in this community in the last couple of hours because it's not just a mosque where they gather for prayer 5 times daily. This campus also includes the Al Rashid School where they teach the Arabic language and Islam and the Quran. So students were in lockdown both on campus and in neighbouring schools for a considerable period of time. The mayor has also been speaking in the last few minutes. He's encouraged people to avoid the area. It's a very residential area, as you say, north of San Diego. The Governor, Gavin Newsom, is sending his support to first responders, and the White House has told us that President Trump has been briefed. This is a very worrying development, though, when you think about how minority groups like immigrants and the Jewish community and the Muslim community have been under the microscope during the second Trump administration. And when tension is so high over events in the Middle East, yes, 3 people are dead, but I think it could have been so much worse were 2 suspects not also dead.
David, updating us there. Thank you very much indeed. Well, let's head to domestic matters now, domestic politics. In fact, Sir Keir Starmer has again insisted that he will not stand down, even if Andy Burnham returns to Westminster to challenge him for the Labour Party leadership. Well, today, Mr Burnham set out his stall as he seeks election in the Makerfield constituency.
If we are to unify communities and the country. It means focusing on the big economic challenges we have, the structural problems that I've been talking about before, the fact that we gave away so many of the levers of economic power when we deregulated and privatised. That is a problem. You know, we don't have control of the basics and the cost of them, and therefore we don't have control of public spending. If local authorities are facing the cost of temporary accommodation and the benefit system is chasing rents in the private rented sector, as we are right now, how can we control our costs as a country? It is about getting a fundamental grip on those things. A vote for me will be a vote to change Labour, because Labour needs to change.
Well, the Prime Minister also spoke today and said he will back whoever contests make a field for Labour, but that he wasn't going anywhere.
I've said, I don't know how many times, that I'm not going to walk away. I feel very strongly that I must serve the people who voted me into office. Do I recognise that we've got to turn things around after those election results? Yes, of course I do. And obviously a lot of people in the Labour Party have been talking about what has to happen next. I recognise that. But it is really important, I think, for me at least, to remind myself, why am I in politics? I came in to serve my country. That's how we won the election. And every day I remind myself, that's people are struggling with the cost of living. They're worried about their health service. They can see that this government is, we have got growth to a better place. That is good because it means there's more money that we can use on the services that they need. We have got those waiting lists down. That really does matter for people using the NHS. But my job is to serve and to carry out that responsibility, and that's what I'll do.
The Prime Minister there. Well, Andy Burnham has come out as the clear winner in a YouGov poll of Labour members shared with Sky News. Let's take a look then. In the event of a leadership contest, Andy Burnham is ranked the first choice candidate of 47% of Labour members. That is higher than for anyone else, including Sir Keir Starmer. 31% of Labour members said they would back him. Meanwhile, Wes Streeting trailing. Only 3% of Labour members say they will support him in a leadership race. This is throwing out all sorts of oddities, is it not? It's a Prime Minister who'll fight for any Labour candidate, even though the winner might unseat him. A candidate who has to be mindful of two audiences. One, the people of Makerfield, and the other Labour members who might have opposing views, and all coming straight after a King's speech in which we had, 37 bills, which might all be voided. I mean, it's kind of nuts, isn't it? Is it all unprecedented?
Well, it's killing political satire. I mean, the thick of it would struggle to script this in a series. But, of course, every time the Prime Minister says he's not going anywhere, I think, yeah, that's what 100 of your MPs think, and that's why they want you gone. And the truth is, if, and there's a big if, because it's only a 4,300 Labour majority in Makerfield, if Andy Burnham is elected on June the 18th, I think we're expecting the election, then he'll challenge Keir Starmer, and then Keir Starmer, I suspect, because of those figures, will step down.
Yeah, just West Streeting actually got to 4%, not 3%. Apologies.
Yeah, I know.
I think it said it on there, didn't it?
It's still not going to help him. 3 or 4, he's a long way behind.
Well, I mean, you know, we've not got a vacancy yet, let alone a contest. So,
I mean, there's so many hurdles to jump before the leadership election comes up. And I think people are looking at all of this soap opera and saying, seriously? We've just watched a video from Iran. We're listening to what's happening in America. We know what's happening in Ukraine, the Middle East. Meanwhile, we're having a soap opera about 3 men as to who's going to run in a constituency and possibly not win the seat because of what's going on, and we're going to talk, no doubt, about the whole Brexit debate and who believes what's been said. But, you know, there's a lot of ifs and buts before we find out who the next leader of the Labour Party is going to be.
That's the Keir Starmer defence as Prime Minister. Look, I'm dealing with the big problems, including Iran, and he's had a good war by not having a war. David Lammy, his deputy, was making this point this morning. But Andy Burnham is not standing to just be an MP. And I think if he is elected, he will challenge Keir Starmer. And I think the figures all stack up. The trade unions affiliated, the 11 saying Keir Starmer won't lead Labour into the next election. 100 or so MPs who signed, the petition saying they want him gone. I know another 100 signed the other way. The fact is a ballot would be triggered. Andy Burnham would walk the 81 required MPs for a formal battle. And I think Keir Starmer knows it, but he also knows he may not win Makerfield.
But that's the point.
Yeah?
That is the point. I think if he wins the by-election, he becomes the next leader, as far as I'm concerned, because I think the forces will move in that direction and Keir Starmer will be gone. But isn't it taking the electorate of Makerfield a little bit for granted to be out on a platform today talking about Labour needs to change, and if I were the leader, this would happen, X, Y and Z?
But that's how he wins it, doesn't it? I mean, Nigel Farage went into the local elections saying vote Reform to get rid of Keir Starmer. Andy Burnham is effectively saying vote Labour to get rid of Keir Starmer in Makerfield. I mean, it's the weird world we're in politics at the moment.
It is a political experiment which we will watch in real time, which is Labour versus Reform, which could be the battle for the next election. And if Labour loses Makerfield, what does it spell for the election in 3 years' time? Is it existential for the party? I mean, there's multi-layers of stuff riding on this, isn't there?
There is, absolutely, and a lot of Labour grandees and Labour members in the North East and North West are now making their views known about the different positions that people are taking. As I understand, David Blunkett has an article in the Daily Telegraph tomorrow saying, are we mad talking about Brexit? What is all this about? So I think some of the grandees are saying, just hold on a second. We need to reconnect with our own people here before we start talking about these big policy shifts.
We heard Sir Keir Starmer say, as I told my staff this morning. I mean, what's he explaining to people in Downing Street? Certainly earlier, our deputy political editor, Sam Coates, was gauging the mood in Downing Street. Take a look then at this from our Politics at Sam and Anne's podcast.
I don't think people should underestimate how basically broken it is in number 10. I'm picking up tears, kind of frustrated aggression between people, and just a complete lack of bandwidth to deal with day-to-day stuff because it's such an existential crisis in number 10. The atmosphere was described as, quote, horrendous. And one of the reasons that'll be the case, we touched on this last week, but when a government all but collapses, and I use that advisedly, but this government is really struggling to function on a day-to-day basis, other bits of Whitehall all but go on strike.
Arlen, Kevin, your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I hear similar things. There's been so many people who've been sacked and forced out, and those who left know that the Prime Minister feels on his way out. Now, it may be a long goodbye, it may be a shorter goodbye, but it's going to be a goodbye. Things can change. Nothing is certain in politics, but it really feels as if it's coming to the end of the Keir Starmer period. And it'll get worse before it might get better for Labour and the UK government.
Well, I think there's a real air of unreality at the moment. We're debating the King's speech at the moment, both in the House of Lords and in the House of Commons, and understandably the opposition are saying, well, what's going to happen when there's a change of leader? Are these bills going to go through? Is this going to be the agenda? Is there going to be a different agenda? So there is a little bit of that at the moment, certainly, and Labour's heads are very much down at the moment. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like everything goes on pause, doesn't it? When we've been through so many of these, haven't we? For the Conservative Party at the very least.
Well, we may have a 7th Prime Minister in 10 years.
Yeah. I mean, it's all nuts. It really is, genuinely. Anyway, here's your paper, Daily Mirror. I won't walk away. The PM rejecting calls to set out a timetable. We'll be taking a look at all the front pages after this.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back. Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be allowed to war.
But I'm just going to put some body armor on. I'm Yalda Hakim.
Well, time now to see what is making the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers. So let's start with the Daily Mirror. It reports that the Prime Minister is fighting to hold on to his position amid growing calls to quit as challenger Andy Burnham vows to build trust and mount a serious challenge. The Guardian says Burnham is drawing the battle lines for Labour's future, promising to rebuild the party to win voters back. The Financial Times leads with Burnham vowing to end austerity and roll back privatisation while reassuring markets that he won't break fiscal rules. On the front of the Daily Telegraph, Sir Keir Starmer raises the prospect of Britain rejoining the EU, a move that threatens to undercut Andy Burnham's bid for number 10. The Daily Telegraph highlights Labour turmoil as Burnham makes two major U-turns in a single day, dropping EU rejoin ambitions and signalling that he will stick to Reeves's borrowing rules amid market jitters and accusations of economic chaos. The Eye leads on HS2 set to become the world's most expensive rail project, with costs hitting £100 billion, costing more than NASA's Artemis moon mission. The Daily Express reports a clear public verdict, 2/3 back keeping the pensions triple lock, despite calls to scrap it. The Metro leads with surgeons carrying out groundbreaking brain surgery through a patient's eye socket. The Sun front page claims that Katie Price's new husband, Lee Andrews, took £1,000 from a Sun journalist for an alleged investment before disappearing with the money. Plus, up the top there, news of Pep Guardiola, reportedly set to leave Manchester City at the end of the season, bringing his trophy-laden spell at the club to a close. Potentially talk about that in a moment. But in the meantime, it's a near Andy Burnham all the way news agenda, isn't it? What's the message you're getting from the newspapers?
Yeah, well, I think it depends on which paper you read, and it's the politics of the politics of the paper. Because if you look at the Guardian, it's Burnham, Labour must change to regain trust. That's clearly his pitch. You know, the FT, because it's worried about money, which is trying to calm the markets. The Mirror, Labour friendly, Burnham friendly too, but also not calling for Starmer to go, so they have him. Look, I won't walk away. But then we jump to the Daily Telegraph, the Tory graph, and it's all Starmer sabotages Burnham on Brexit. It's all, it's all war. You go to the Mail, slippery Burnhams, 2 U-turns in a big, Tory paper leaning towards reform too now. The Mail. So it is you pay your money, you get your political choice, and that colours the coverage. But of course, it's all him, and he is challenging the Prime Minister. Normally in a by-election, and the Guardian have Burnham saying, look, there's going to be no ordinary by-election, get away. Normally, you try to keep the candidate as quiet as possible to say nothing controversial, and they support whatever the leader thinks. Not the case here, because he is pitching himself directly against his party leader and the Prime Minister, because he wants to be that party leader and that Prime Minister.
Yes, and if we go back to the Daily Mail, I mean, the pitch is extremely difficult for him. You have got the reform-backing constituency he's fighting in, and he's got a completely different audience of Labour members that he needs to speak to if he's to win the position of Prime Minister. So, where does he sit?
But he has to win the by-election first, and that's why he is sending messages that yes, I may well have said in the past that I wanted to rejoin the European Union, but that's not going to be an issue during this. Well, sorry, it is an issue. If he said it as, I think it was September, October of last year, as late as that, he was talking about rejoining. He's been done no favours, of course, from West Streeting, because he's reminding everybody that Andy Burnham wants to rejoin the EU, as does he. And then, of course, Keir Starmer comes into the frame. And my question is, will Keir Starmer go to Makerfield to canvas.
Well, to make sure Burnham doesn't win.
He is the Labour Party candidate, and he said he will back him to the hilt, whoever it is.
He goes to some, to not others. It'll be gloriously awkward. I hope it happens. But in that Burnham statement last September, he said, hope to join the EU in my lifetime. He's 56, which didn't suggest any immediacy. It's rather like Wes Streeting said, one day, and then he emphasised it and said, one day again, join the EU. I don't think Labour at the next election, whoever is leader, will be putting in its manifesto that the UK should join the EU, however beneficial that would be economically, and it may appeal to most Labour voters, but not all, because a sizable minority, particularly up north in the Midlands and South Wales, are against that.
I mean, this is one of the most pro-reform constituencies in England, isn't it?
Those are the people that they have to win back. So I think it's rather messy, rather confusing to have all of this going on about Brexit on the front pages of the papers. Meanwhile, the message isn't really getting through to me.
Do you think Wes Streeting did it deliberately, just out of interest?
Well, I have no idea whether he did it deliberately, but you could make that argument.
He would have been aware of what he was saying, but he also knows a majority of Labour Party members want to join. And if he runs for leader in a contest, then he'd have to appeal to those
members. But it's not just that as a difficult, constituency of Makerfield plus constituency of the Labour members' issue. For example, Shabana Mahmood's immigration reforms that he's spoken out against, and yet people in that constituency want even stronger migration controls. I mean, he's in a tricky place.
Well, he is. That's why he wants to talk about council housing, taking control of water and power and so on. Well, he doesn't quite say whether taking control would mean tighter regulation, I suspect, rather than public ownership. Giving people more opportunities. He's got that agenda, but you're right, he's in conflict with other bits of the Labour agenda.
But it is really about, are you going to connect with the voters, which were clearly pro-Brexit and wanted to deal with immigration, or are you going to connect with the Labour Party? Which is it? Because the two are different, Kevin.
But I think he'll be very happy if Nigel Farage and Reform just talk about Brexit all the way through. And he talks about his change, because, yes, there'll be a core, but it'll be a minority who are obsessed by Brexit, just like most people polls show now would like to rejoin the EU, but they don't wake up every morning whistling "Ode to Joy." There are other issues.
We've just had council elections, Kevin, and that's literally less than 2 weeks ago we had those council elections, and in that area they voted for reform for a reason, because they were disconnected from the Labour Party.
Who was the deeply unpopular Labour leader that Andy Burnham is saying he will?
Oh, is that the only reason
he will replace?
No,
it's a big reason. If you look at Reform voters, there's a big coalition of Reform voters.
I don't doubt.
And there are some people who just think, I'm fed up with other parties. Then you've got people who are really hardline on immigration. There are other people who like what was the policy of renationalising the water industry in basics, which the Reform seem to be going away from. I think Burnham knows that. He's not going to appeal to every Reform voter, but he will pitch for those who were Labour voters and have gone over.
I find it amazing. How are you going to run an election where you're saying, vote for me and I'll get rid of Keir Starmer? Meanwhile, Keir Starmer's in London saying, I support this man up in Makerfield. I think he's doing a great job. I mean, there is such a disconnect.
It is.
And it's almost as if we're taking the voters for granted.
Yeah, but he's a Greater Manchester mayor who is very popular, and he's won those wards in the past for his own elections.
It's a cycle of destruction where one's going to eat the other, let's be honest about it. Let's get to the Financial Times, shall we? Burnham tries to ease markets while vowing to reverse sell-offs. You've already mentioned whether it actually means full public ownership or not. But anyway, this idea of what the bond markets do, about how expensive it gets in Britain to borrow, is a very critical point, isn't it? And will clip the wings of any Labour leader who wants to spend more.
Yeah, to some extent, you are limited. There's no question. And when he was Greater Manchester mayor and a kind of Labour thinker throwing out ideas, he wasn't responsible for the implementation of those ideas. So, which they point out, he's backtracked on Europe, but he's also backtracked on public spending, saying he would stick to Rachel Reeves' rules, and also he'd thrown out an idea taking increases in defence spending out of overall totals, well, that would just be really, you know, figures on a bit of paper. But he wouldn't do that now. There's also, I see they've got a very smiling picture there of Nigel Farage and his accounts of the £1.4 million house he bought without a mortgage.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go past the Daily Express, setting out its stall again. You know, if any government trying to get more money, of course, the Express is fighting to keep the pensions triple lock, whereas Labour seems to believe that pensions are a rich cohort of you know, of the British
the
public.
Express has got a very old readership and it normally wants welfare cut, but not when it's pensions, although you do pay 35 years national insurance to qualify for a full state pension.
Well, the welfare bill is going up by 18 billion.
The biggest
not a mention in the King's speech.
Biggest component of the welfare bill is state pensions, which is low by European standards.
Yeah. HST report, grim reading, has to be said. Arlene?
Yeah, I mean, when you put it beside the moon mission, you know,
clever.
I mean,
HST
my goodness.
will last longer, that's all I'm going to say.
Well, do you think? Well, OK, but I was at a meeting today when I was being told that space is where it's at, and that's what we should be talking about, because that's where all the satellites are, and that's where the next battles are going to be. So whilst HS2 may last longer, certainly it's taking a long time and a lot of money and a lot of controversy to get it over the line, and we're only going to Birmingham.
Yeah, exactly.
I love whoever just did the comparison with Artemis.
That's very clever, isn't it? But it kind of sums up where Britain feels like it's at, is the problem with this story.
It was proposed by Gordon Brown when he was Prime Minister, and now it's run out of control. Well, trains aren't
never mind not being Churchill, we are not the Victorians, are we? But
exactly.
And one other story that's on a number of newspapers is Pep Guardiola, Man City's extraordinary leader for the last 10 years, and speculation that he might be planning to quit Man City.
I know. All that Abu Dhabi cash he's had to spend on players now. It looks like, look, if he does, he's won both domestic cups, the League Cup and the FA Cup, but it looks like he won't win the title. Arsenal won tonight. They have to go to Bournemouth tomorrow. Then they got Aston Villa at home, and I think Crystal Palace away for Arsenal, isn't it? So he may. It's been an incredible haul. I think including the treble and the Champions League. But I suppose all good things coming to an end.
Yeah, one of those managers that's done 1,000 games. Imagine the stress on you.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, they you know, it's an unnatural level of stress you have to undergo. But anyway, we'll keep an eye on that, certainly. Now, Channel 4 has launched a review over claims that it failed to look after the welfare of contributors after allegations that 2 participants on the programme Married at First Sight UK were raped. Tonight, the channel has removed all previous seasons of the programme from its streaming platforms.
I want to say a few words about tonight's programme. I've seen the accounts of the women present in the Panorama programme, and their distress is obvious. I have huge sympathy for them. The welfare of our contributors is always of paramount importance. I hope you'll understand that I can't comment on the specific allegations that the men deny, not least because we have a duty of care to all our contributors and are mindful of their privacy. It's also important to recognise that Channel 4 is not an adjudicating body. I can address the BBC's claim that we failed in our duty of care to some of our contributors. I believe that wasn't the case, and based on what we knew at the time, we acted appropriately, quickly, and with sensitivity. Nevertheless, as the new CEO of Channel 4, I thought it was right to look again at our handling at the time. And last month, I commissioned an external review by a law firm to do exactly that. I've also asked the hugely experienced TV executive, Lorraine Hegasey, to look at how we can further strengthen contributor welfare on Maths UK. While that review is ongoing, I made the decision to remove all previous seasons of Maths UK from our platforms. This was done to avoid fueling speculation about the identity of contributors. Until the review is complete, it would be wrong of me to say very much else.
Well, let's bring in our correspondent, Anjem Pierre-Bakos. And Anjem, Channel 4 saying that these allegations were brought to them in April against a small number of past contributors, allegations that we understand those contributors have denied. That's the Channel 4 statement. What else have you learned?
So these are incredibly serious allegations, and we can see from the executive's statement that we've just heard that they're taking measures now to also go back and look at their actions at the time when the concerns were raised. They have said that their welfare of the contributors is of paramount importance, but it's taken the allegations that have been made to really step that up and kind of ramp that up, and the removal of all of those seasons from all of their streaming platforms really does say that they're taking this serious issue even more kind of with its severity now that this allegation has been made with what we know, given the allegations that have been made via the BBC. But the executive was very clear that she said that the claims that the BBC are bringing, she refutes those, and she says that what we did at the time was with the right course of action. We took the necessary process and protocols regarding welfare for their contributors, and that's something that they're very, very keen to express in their statement just now that we've just heard, but also previously when the allegations were first made. They're very keen to stress that actually at the time when the concerns were raised, all of the necessary measures were put in place to safeguard and consider the welfare of their contributors.
Anjem, thank you very much indeed. And certainly Channel 4 has said that the MAFS UK, Married at First Sight UK, is produced under some of the most comprehensive and robust welfare protocols in the industry. But it's another show produced by an independent production company for Channel 4. And the revelations coming out in BBC Panorama, who also reported that none of the women the BBC spoke to have reported their allegations to the police as yet, it seems.
No, but one of the women says she told both Channel 4 and the production company CPL before broadcast about being allegedly raped by her on-screen husband, but her episodes were still aired, the BBC reports. Now, you have to take them all off, because if you just took off the ones with the three women on, you would identify them and breach their legal right to anonymity because of the nature of the alleged offences. But have they stayed up until the BBC has broken this story? Why didn't Channel 4 get ahead if these allegations are made and take them off itself? And of course, yes, they say they instigated the investigation in April. But I don't recall, maybe I missed it, any statement from Channel 4 previously until it's been exposed by another part of the media, and I think that will raise questions.
Yes, full investigation obviously required into these allegations at this point, Arlene.
Absolutely. Look, I am completely the wrong demographic for this programme. I've never watched it. No. The idea that you marry somebody at first sight is just completely an anathema to me. But there seems to be a lot of things that need investigated here. It looks as if Channel 4 are now taking them seriously. But as Kevin says, is that only because another media organisation have stepped forward and have raised questions about this? I think there's a lot of issues here.
OK, both of you, thank you for now. Coming up, Kylie Minogue talks to Sky News about her battle with breast cancer. Back with that.
It's like a football final with only one team on the pitch. This isn't just a call to vote, but a call to remember. The freedom fought for by the African National Congress.
I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa.
A cyclone and 2 burst dams wiped out hundreds of generational homes.
This was the second dam that the floodwaters hit before it tore into Derna. We are in the heart of Nairobi, and we're watching as protesters were heavily tear gassed.
The sheer fearlessness and persistence of these guys is astonishing.
We help you understand the world with us. I remember going into the iconic Durman market in the heart of Sudan's capital for the first time since the war started. And this is what's left of it. Bullet holes through buildings, shelled balconies, bullet cases on the floor. I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories and the lives of millions of people. This is insane. This was a bustling residential area. So many friends who lived here. My most memorable interview was with a 15-year-old boy who'd survived being stranded on a migrant boat on its way from Senegal to the Canary Islands.
After 13 days, our food, water and fuel supply ran out.
I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
They call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News. Get the full story first. Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky News.
I bet right now you often find yourself asking why. Why was a certain decision taken? Why did something happen? Why did they say or do that? I'm Neil Patterson, and it's my job as a journalist to find out why. Just explain why.
It's a difficult one.
Well, I mean, it's massive.
It's a very, very severe situation. So if you want to make sense of this complicated world, Sky News' new podcast, This Is Why, is your daily fix. One story every day, and we can find out why together. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... Hi, darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
Is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more. Well, let's kick off and make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs? He's coming out! What more do you need?
We're trying to see as much as we can.
We're in an area that's just been reclaimed.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
People are directly protesting.
The whole neighborhood is rallied around her.
It's been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan. I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming.
It was never going to be pretty.
War isn't pretty.
Now, Kylie Minogue has opened up to Sky News about her breast cancer diagnosis. At the launch of her new Netflix documentary, she told us about her pride at speaking out.
It meant a lot to me. It still means a lot to me, and I hope it continues to speak to mostly women, but men as well, that, to be health aware, and that, like, I know in my very dark moments that I needed things to kind of hold on to, and if I've done that for someone else, then I'm very, very touched by that.
Well, this is a three-part documentary, I guess, about her life. I was just checking her first single was actually released in Australia in 1987. I mean, she's decades in the music industry, and of course it was because of her popularity in the soap Neighbours that brought her to international attention.
Neighbours was one of those soaps that, as a student, you had to watch regardless of everything else that you were doing at the time. And she's a year older than me, so she was in 87, she would have been 18. So that's when she had her first hit.
Wow, that's
because
amazing.
She's 57 now and I'm 56, so that's right.
Extraordinary.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot to go through, isn't there? Michael Hutchins. I mean, all of it's actually really fascinating. You know, Jason Donovan. It's like our lives.
It is.
Actually.
I'm not sure all of us 57, but anyway, it's got to be said. But you know, the Princess of Pop. She's a very appealing, engaging character.
Well, she looks brilliant.
And you know, to have stayed at the top for so long. I remember when she disappeared for treatment for her breast cancer, and I was in the Himalayas, and a rumour went around she was in a monastery at Tengbushir. The monks were looking after her. And I really worried that the Daily Mirror would work out I was in the Himalayas, go to Everest Base Camp and require me to go and find her. But she wasn't there in the end, so...
That could have been a great documentary, Finding Kylie.
It would have been it.
That would have been a great documentary.
We're going to have a look at the weather now. No doubt we'll all watch that. Here's the weather.
You're looking happy.
Well, the forecast looks good.
So you've sorted the travel insurance then?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News Weather.
Well, plenty of wet weather around on Tuesday, but gradually this week it is warming up, and by Friday the temperature could be topping 28 degrees. So a mild start on Tuesday, far milder than previous mornings. It will also be rather soggy for parts of Scotland and northern and eastern England. To the west, there will be a whole rash of blustery showers. During the morning, the rain will start to clear away into the North Sea. By lunchtime, it'll only be clinging onto northeast Scotland. Then most places will see a little sunshine and heavy frequent showers with the risk of the odd rumble of thunder. During the afternoon, the rain will continue to clear away from the northeast, and for most places, the showers will continue. In the southwest, though, the showers will start to fade away as we head towards evening time. Then on Wednesday, many places are likely to be fairly cloudy, with a few outbreaks of patchy rain. The exception will be the southeast, where there should be more sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News Weather.
Well, the wrap continues in the next hour. More from Kevin and Arlene. We'll report from inside Iran on who carried out an attack in which 120 children lost their lives.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect. Let's bring you some breaking news.
Being a Sky News presenter. I began by asking.
Thank you so much.
Trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access.
Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget.
Why did you decide to open up and tell your story?
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back.
Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be allowed to warn.
I'm just going to put some body armor on.
I'm Yalda Hakim.
Tonight on The Wrap, we report from inside Iran. Sky's Dominic Waghorn is the first international journalist to visit the scene of a strike on a school in which 120 children were killed on the first day of the war. Despite an initial finding that it carried out the attack, the United States is still to admit responsibility.
Quite overwhelming, child after child, grave after grave, and almost 3 months on, the families still coming every evening to spend hours by their children's graveside.
Meanwhile, President Trump reveals that US strikes on Iran had been due to resume tomorrow, but he's holding off for now to give negotiations another chance. Also tonight, as one of the Prime Minister's leading rivals makes his pitch for a return to Parliament, Sir Keir Starmer insists he isn't going anywhere.
I am clear about what I am offering. If I get to stand, a vote for me will be a vote to change Labour, because Labour needs to change.
I've said, I don't know how many times, that I'm not going to walk away. I feel very strongly that I must serve the people who voted me into office.
Also ahead, officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo scramble to open more treatment centres as they struggle to contain a deadly outbreak of Ebola. Plus, Kylie Minogue tells Sky News of her pride in raising public awareness of breast cancer after her own diagnosis.
I know in my very dark moments that I needed things to kind of hold on to, and if I've done that for someone else, then I'm very, very touched by that.
Well, we discuss the day's biggest stories with Baroness Arlene Foster and Kevin Maguire. Plus, a first look at the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers, including coverage of the continuing questions over the Labour leadership. Well, hello and a very good evening to you. Arlene and Kevin, welcome to both of you as well. We begin tonight with the Iran war. President Trump has said this evening that the US military was poised to renew its attacks on Iran tomorrow, but he's decided to hold off for now because serious negotiations are taking place. We'll have more on that from Washington in a moment. But first, we want to bring you exclusive reporting from inside Iran. As the war began, more than 150 people, including 120 children, were killed in a strike on a primary school in the southern part of the country. Although a first investigation by the US military determined that Washington was responsible, the Trump administration is yet to formally accept that was the case. Well, the strike happened on the 28th of February, the first day of the war. The school was in the city of Minab, 700 miles from Tehran. Sky's Dominic Waghorn is the first international journalist to visit the site of the attack. A warning that you may find the content of his report distressing.
Dawn, deep in the south of Iran. We're reaching the end of a 4-day journey. Heading for a place now infamous in the story of this war. As we enter the town of Minab, there are reminders everywhere of its terrible tragedy. We've come to the primary school that was hit on the first day of the conflict by precision-guided American missiles. We're the first journalists from outside of Iran to film here since the attack. There are still so many unanswered questions about what happened here. We meet brothers Fazl and Reza, who rushed to help after the missiles came in.
We were faced with an unbelievably horrifying scene. There were pieces of bodies everywhere. Hands, heads, a child's torso without limbs, all burned. All of this area was full of body parts. We were terrified and in shock. We were wondering if we were in a nightmare or awake and couldn't believe what we were seeing.
The missiles struck in the middle of the morning when the school was full of children, causing enormous loss of life. Staff at the school had already realised that Iran was under attack that morning and called parents to take their children home. Most of them didn't get here in time. Survivors say that most of the children, the girls on the upper floor of the school, were moved to that end of the building to a prayer room for their safety. When the missiles struck, they killed many children and teachers on impact, but they also tragically collapsed completely that end of the school, trapping and killing many more. 11-year-old Parastesh was on the school's upper floor when the missiles landed. She somehow survived but was badly injured. Her little brother, 9-year-old Ali Asghar, was killed. She showed us his toys and his backpack found in the rubble and told us how she raced to help him that morning before a second explosion tore them apart.
اینجوری دستمو میخواستم بذارم رو شونش که بیارم تلف خودم که دومی رو زد ته شد. خیلی فاصله نبود که دیگه بهش برسم. میخواستم بیارم سمت خودم، فکر میکردم اگه بیارم سمت خودم در امانه.
Parastesh was found under rubble on the floor below. She was severely burned and spent weeks in hospital recovering. Jawad, their father, told us how proud he'd been of his son.
هم از هوشش بیشترم عاشق فوتبال بود، با عاشق مدرسه بود. مدرسه رو خیلی دوست داشتم، با فوتبال دنبال من می اومد. دوست داشت همیشه با بزرگترا بشینه، نه با کوچکا. اینجوری بود.
The loss of Ali Asghar, he says, is impossible to take in.
من حقیقت تا الانم باور ندارم که پسرم نیست و شهید شده. تا الانم باور ندارم. دیگه تا هنوزم باور ندارم که علی اصغر نیست. حس میکنه همیشه تو خونه است.
Minab has had to extend the town's cemetery to bury all the dead. They come here every night to hold vigil for their children. This is actually quite overwhelming. Child after child, grave after grave, and almost 3 months on, the families still coming every evening to spend hours by their children's graveside. And talking to some of them, of course, is deeply moving. Mohammed Taha should have been celebrating his 10th birthday this night. Instead, his mother Khadija and family are by his grave mourning him.
دوست دارم یه بار شده ببینمش بغلش بگیرم بار صداشو بشنوم ذوق کردناشو میدونم اونجا خیلی جاش خوبه ولی من دلتنگشم.
They made a cake for Mohammed. Happy birthday, they sang. May you live for 100 years. If there is an explanation for this atrocity, we haven't heard it yet. The evidence points to America. Iranians say these are pieces of US-made Tomahawk cruise missiles collected at the site. And we know America attacked several other places nearby that day. Whatever other targets there were in the area, the point to stress is this was a primary school. It had been for more than a decade and was clearly marked on maps. And yet it was struck, it seems, right in the centre of the building by missiles that are accurate within a few metres. It was either deliberately targeted, which would be a war crime, or it was misidentified, potentially equally a breach of the rules of war. Now, after similar incidents in Iraq and Afghanistan, America has admitted responsibility within a few days or at the most a few weeks. All it said for almost 3 months now is this is being investigated. They are stalked here by the spectre of war returning. It's not at all clear to what extent this appalling tragedy is being investigated and what's been learned to make sure nothing like this can happen again if hostilities resume. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Minab.
Well, a very difficult watch to see the pain on families there, because with this number of deaths, Ali, you're wiping out a generation, aren't you, in a town like Minab?
It's very difficult to watch, and I think your journalist has done a tremendous job. I mean, interviewing the parents of loved ones, I mean, sitting there at the graves whilst the children should have been celebrating their birthdays, it's an incredibly sad piece of journalism, but something that has to be told. And I think it's very, very powerful. And I think the viewers will find it very powerful as well.
And the Americans are saying it will be investigated, obviously, but what happened here, what went wrong, how are missile strikes chosen, is it automated? We look at the map of Minab, we see it's right on the Strait of Hormuz, somewhere we've, subsequent to that date, grown to know so well in terms of its geography.
Well, of course, the attacks are always sold as precision-guided, you know, really accurate, and that may not be the case, or they were using Palantir artificial intelligence at one point for targeting. Palantir, which wants NHS data and involvement in the UK, which is why there's a big pushback against that company now. If your data's wrong, you'll hit the wrong place, and that's the grim reality of war, whether it is, you know, the Hamas pogrom in Israel, Israel in Gaza, Israel in Lebanon, Hezbollah into Israel, or here the Americans after Afghanistan and Iraq are now starting a war, which Trump doesn't know how to finish, but he doesn't want to admit. He was glorifying, triumphalist about the assassination of the then Ayatollah and others. But the reality is citizens and innocents always suffer.
But that's why this report's so important, because, you know, people talk about war in abstract terms.
It's real people, flesh and blood.
Here we have a whole range of children wiped out who were daughters and sons of loving parents. It's an incredible piece of journalism, I think.
Yeah, and their blood is on the hands of Trump.
Well, if it is confirmed
that
it was their missile. But as I said, that is to be investigated. Meanwhile, Donald Trump himself has been speaking tonight after earlier posting about renewed attack on Iran tomorrow. Let's just listen to what he's had to say this evening.
Other countries have come to me and they've said, we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I've put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that, where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think, and if they're satisfied, we will be probably satisfied also. We've informed Israel. We've informed other people in the Middle East that have been involved with us. And, you know, it's a very positive development, but we'll see whether or not it amounts to anything. We've had periods of time where we thought pretty much getting close to making a deal, and it didn't work out. But this is a little bit different. Now, we're ready going tomorrow, very big, and not something I wanted to do, but we have no choice, because we cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. Yeah.
So 3 things I guess we've learnt then. There was an attack, a renewed attack or plan for an attack on Iran tomorrow. It was the pleading of Gulf neighbours that has stopped it effectively, and the news that serious negotiations are now taking place. And then in that statement we hear that if they promised not to have nuclear weapons, we would be satisfied. So all other demands would then recede into submission.
So we'll go back to the 2016 agreement that Obama masterminded, backed by the UK, China, Russia, Germany, France, that Iran wouldn't have a nuclear weapon, and thousands of tons of uranium were removed from the country. Centrifuges thousands were de-triggered. So we'd go back to that. His tone is very, very different now. When he was demanding unconditional surrender, threatening nuclear weapons, end of civilization, because, of course, he won the regime. Has not fallen over. It's a brutal, terrible regime, but it hasn't fallen over. And 2, it can choke the Strait of Hormuz, which he never took into account. And he's suffering in the US because the cost of living, affordability they call it, energy prices have soared.
Well, I think it would be a good outcome for us here in the UK if we get to that position where Iran does not have any nuclear weapons. I think that would be very good news for us and for the rest of the world as it is as well. He's not going to get regime change. I think that's very clear. And that's very sad for the Iranians and those people who live under that terrible regime. And I think we'll have to stock-take what happens if, indeed, this deal goes through in terms of not having nuclear weapons.
OK, watch this space again. But we've been here before again, haven't we? So there we are. Let's move on to domestic politics, shall we? So Keir Starmer again insisting today that we'll not stand down, even if Andy Burnham returns to Westminster to challenge him for the Labour Party leadership. Well, today Mr Burnham set out his stall as he seeks election in the Makerfield constituency.
If we are to unify communities and the country, it means focusing on the big economic challenges we have, the structural problems that I've been talking about before, the fact that we gave away so many of the levers of economic power when we deregulated and privatised. That is a problem. We don't have control of the basics and the cost of them, and therefore we don't have control of public spending. If local authorities are facing the cost of temporary accommodation and the benefit system is chasing rents in the private rented sector, as we are right now, how can we control our costs as a country? It is about getting a fundamental grip on those things. A vote for me will be a vote to change Labour, because Labour needs to change.
Well, the Prime Minister also spoke today, saying he will back whoever contests Makerfield for Labour and that he isn't going anywhere.
I've said, I don't know how many times, that I'm not going to walk away. I feel very strongly that I must serve the people who voted me into office. Do I recognise that we've got to turn things around after those election results? Yes, of course I do. And obviously a lot of people in the Labour Party have been talking about what has to happen next. I recognise that. But it is really important, I think, for me at least, to remind myself, why am I in politics? I came in to serve my country. That's how we won the election. And every day I remind myself, that's people are struggling with the cost of living. They're worried about their health service. They can see that this government is, we have got growth to a better place. That is good because it means there's more money that we can use on the services that they need. We have got those waiting lists down. That really does matter for people using the NHS. But my job is to serve and to carry out that responsibility, and that's what I'll do.
Well, YouGov has been polling Labour members, figures shared with Sky News, and Andy Burnham has come out as the clear winner. Let's take a look at the figures then. So in the event of a leadership contest, Andy Burnham is ranked the first-choice candidate of 47% of Labour members. That is higher than for anyone else, including Sir Keir Starmer. 31% of Labour members said they would back him. And meanwhile, Wes Streeting is trailing. Only 4% of Labour members say they will support him in a leadership race. So we heard from two of them today then, Burnham, Starmer. One winning makes the other one lose, one presumes. Arlene, what do you make of it all?
I don't know where to start. There's such a ball of confusion in all of this, because Keir Starmer is saying he will back whoever is the candidate in Makerfield and he will want them to win. Meanwhile, if Andy Burnham gets the nomination, fights the election, wins the election, he's going to take Keir Starmer's job, quite clearly. I don't think there's any doubt that if he wins the election, he takes Keir Starmer's job. There'll be such a force behind him that he will definitely take. So where does that leave Keir Starmer? I just don't understand how he's going to canvass for Andy Burnham in the election. I think it's a complete mess.
Very generous if you really want Andy Burnham to win. Look, if somebody was coming for you in your job, I'm afraid you'd want them to trip up and lose. I mean, we're quite where that would leave Labour is another issue. But if you're a Prime Minister, you normally dig in until the inevitable is about to happen. Then you might try and go with as much grace as you can find.
I mean, so is Keir Starmer just literally putting a brave... Everyone's talking about how resilient he is, but is he just putting a really brave face on it? Is he an ostrich? Does he just think, if I eke out to September, I'm doing well? Does he genuinely believe he can get to the next election or even another 5 years, which is what he was saying a week or so ago?
You never know what comes along. Defeat might come along for Andy Burnham in Makerfield. There might be some great event. I think you're in a bunker, but also you're talking to world leaders all the time. You still have power and clout and some status. So you probably think, right, I fight on. I fight on to win in some way. So when he talks about, look, I'm not going to walk away. Of course, he's not going to walk away.
No.
Until I think he thinks he's going to be pushed, and then he would jump.
Your paper, the Daily Mirror, then, I won't walk away. The PM rejects calls to set out a departure timetable and is up for the fight. One wonders, whether actually it turns out to be a coronation, which is sort of what you were vaguely alluding to then, and who knows. The Financial Times, meanwhile, has Andy Burnham, who's trying to ease market concerns about what his plans to change Labour actually would mean.
Yes, and he talked about privatisation today. He talked about the fact that for 40 years we've been going in the wrong direction as a country. But yet he's still going to have to be very careful that he doesn't spook the markets. And I know Zach Polanski has said, for example, the leader of the Greens, that he doesn't really care about the bond markets. Well, he should care about the bond markets because that's about the cost of borrowing for the country. And if the cost of borrowing goes through the roof, we'll end up in a situation where the IMF will have to intervene. So it, of course, is very important to calm the markets. And in many ways, I think maybe that's what Keir Starmer's doing as well. By all of this, I'm going nowhere, it's business as usual, we're continuing to do the King's Speech debate, we're continuing to set out our plans for government, and that's about calming things as well.
So, I want to ask you, though, if Burnham becomes Prime Minister, would he take the Labour Party to the left, and will we therefore see a high-tax, high-spend Prime Minister?
Well, he said he'll stick to Rachel Reeves's, fiscal rules. So you wonder what he would do.
Higher tax.
Now, of course, when he talks about deregulation and privatisation, would he renationalise? I mean, Labour's renationalised rail already and is in the process of renationalising whatever's left of British Steel in Scunthorpe. But would he take water back? Would he take power back? Would he take the grid network back? These are all questions we're not really quite sure about. And this is where I think he will be, quite rightly, questioned and scrutinised. What would you actually do? Because when you're Mayor of Greater Manchester, he's put the bus network back together. Very, very, very popular. He's also been very entrepreneurial in the development of the city. But if you're going to be Prime Minister, what would you do that is different to what is being done now, other than give the story rather than, Starmer's always just been like the spreadsheet man. And Burnham is very much better at giving you that story, that narrative, that vision.
Yes. Are you just buying, a PR exec?
All questions have to be asked.
Yeah. OK. We will. Most of the papers are dominated about that, so we will look more about that at past. In the meantime, desperate efforts in the Democratic Republic of the Congo to stop the spread of a deadly Ebola outbreak. We'll talk more about that.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... Hi, darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
Is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more.
Well, let's kick off.
And make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs?
He's coming out! What more do you need?
We're trying to see as much as we can. We're in an area that's just been reclaimed. Mr. Zuma, Sky News. People are directly protesting. The whole neighbourhood is rallied around her. It's been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan. I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming. It was never going to be pretty. War isn't pretty.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News presenter?
Perfect.
Let's bring you some breaking news. Being a Sky News presenter. I began by asking...
Thank you so much.
...trusting us to tell her story. The battle for number 10. Sky News has been given exclusive access.
Let me give you a sneak peek. It was the day those present would never forget.
Why did you decide to open up and tell your story?
Now, officials in the Democratic Republic of Congo say they are opening 3 treatment centres as they struggle to contain a deadly outbreak of the Ebola virus. The country's eastern province of Ituri has been identified as the centre of this outbreak. It's where most of the 350 cases and now more than 80 deaths have been recorded. Professor Paul Hunter, a disease expert at the University of East Anglia, told Sky News that the outbreak is concerning.
The first event is always an animal-to-human transmission event. The host species of Ebola is almost certainly fruit bats, and contact with fruit bats are the first event. It's not actually that infectious for most people, except when you are caring for somebody. And that's one of the reasons why most outbreaks see a significant proportion of affected cases are healthcare workers, because they're nursing sick patients.
Yes, and certainly the World Health Organization declaring this a public health emergency of international concern because of the high risk the disease would spread further beyond DRC's borders after 2 cases were confirmed in Kampala, the capital of neighbouring Uganda.
Yes, and unfortunately, the DRC have had numerous outbreaks of this over the years, and their last one was declared closed, I think, towards the end of 2025, and here we are again with a number of people dying. And once you catch Ebola, you have a 50% chance of living. So it is a very serious disease, and it's really dreadful now that it seems to be spreading across the DRC, probably compounded by the fact that there's violence going on in the eastern province of the DRC, and so managing all of this is a problem as well, and spreading to Uganda as well.
Yes, I did see that the US Centers for Disease Control have said tonight that work is underway on the development of monoclonal antibody therapy as a potential treatment for this strain of Ebola, which, unlike the more common Zaire strain, has no approved virus-specific therapeutics or vaccine.
Yeah, well, that's great. It's underway, but this is one of those cases where it's if the US aid budget, rather like the UK aid budget, hadn't been slashed, we'd have the resources to send supplies and people to help contain it, because it's there's a fear of it spreading, because we live in a very interconnected world. There have been cases with health workers in the UK who've come back before. They've always been contained and treated well, and that's great. You can save lives out there in the Democratic Republic of Congo, but you can also stop it spreading if you have the resources.
Indeed so, and often the resources have not been found because
Correct.
the numbers are small and where it's centred and so on, but we'll see what happens with that. It is just coming up to past. Should we take a look at the front pages then of tomorrow's newspapers? Let's start with the Daily Mirror. It reports that the Prime Minister is fighting to hold on to his position as challenger Andy Burnham vows to rebuild trust and mount a serious challenge. The Guardian says Mr Burnham is drawing the battle lines for Labour's future. promising to rebuild the party and win voters back. The Financial Times leads with Andy Burnham vowing to end austerity and roll back privatisation while trying to reassure markets that he will not break fiscal rules. On the front of the Daily Telegraph, Sir Keir Starmer raises the prospect of Britain rejoining the European Union, a move the paper says threatens to undercut Andy Burnham's bid for number 10. The Daily Mail highlights Labour's turmoil as it says Burnham makes two major U-turns in a single day. Firstly, dropping EU rejoining ambitions and signalling also that he will stick to Rachel Reeves's borrowing rules. The Times reports a YouGov survey putting Andy Burnham ahead of Sir Keir Starmer in a Labour leadership contest, winning 59% to 37%, with two-thirds also backing a change of leader before the next election, that poll of Labour members. The Eye leads on HS2, set to become the world's most expensive rail project, with costs hitting £100 billion, costing more than NASA's Artemis moon mission. Daily Express reporting two-thirds of people want to keep the pensions triple locked despite calls to scrap it. And the Metro leads with surgeons carrying out groundbreaking brain surgery through a patient's eye socket. So let's take a look in detail at some of those newspapers with Arlene and with Kevin. Starting, Kevin, with The Guardian. What's their take on the latest on Labour's, well, what do we call it right now?
It's a leadership contest. I mean, it's not been
it's like
formally...
a gladiatorial battle where no one's quite declared, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, he's made clear he's declared he wants to be Prime Minister, but you're right, the formal process is not triggered, but there it is happening in real time in front of our very eyes. And the Guardian report is pretty straightforward on that. Andy Burnham, as we saw earlier, it says Labour must change to regain trust. But of course, they also point out that he is changing himself. Here's some of his positions, including on Europe, which he's playing down. But he did say last September he hoped the UK would rejoin the EU in his lifetime. He's 56, so it was some further ended. But he's saying, look, it's not an issue now. And I would think by extension it wouldn't be an issue in the next Labour manifesto, but his opponents will attempt to make it so.
One Labour MP tonight said that Andy Burnham is a very flexible politician himself. You know, let's hope we get the best result of him by the end of this.
Well, that's
Makerfield.
It's the old joke. A Blairite, a Brownite, and a Corbynite walk into a pub and the barman says, "Hello, Andy." I mean, it's where he has to flesh out who he is, because of course politicians can change, and he did leave Westminster to go to be Greater Manchester Mayor, and I think he's a more rounded.
He abandoned them in opposition. Is that something?
Yeah. Well, that's another way of looking at it. Yeah, but I think he's a more rounded, grounded politician now. But what is Manchesterism? What would it mean for the rest of the country? That's what he has to set out, not just to win the by-election, but then to be Prime Minister. But you've got to win the by-election first.
Yes, and you have to win the by-election.
Which wasn't easy.
And this is the thing, because he's setting out his agenda today, talking about what appeared to me to be big government. Let's be honest, he talked about rolling back privatisation, wanting to get more involved in growing the economy. My position on economic growth, it comes about through facilitation of economic growth, not interfering in economic growth.
It's an interplay between the public and the private sector.
Well, I have to say, what the sort of direction of travel he's going in is very much anti-Thatcher. Let's get away from all of this privatisation. Look at that smile on your face.
So you're just building him up.
I'm just building him up in your eyes, but he's not being built up in my eyes. And I think big government is the last thing this country needs, to be honest.
But people do want a more active state. They want somebody on their side.
Because they've
That's
got
what they
used
want.
to, they've got used to that, though, haven't they? You know, payouts on electricity bills, payouts on COVID. I mean, we've become used to handouts.
Like if you're getting Trumpflation and Trump creating havoc with his war in,
so who do you expect to pay for that?
in Iran.
Well, is the government got to pay for it all the time?
There's a rather lot of money around, actually. It's just who's got it. I mean, there are rather a lot of billionaires, for instance. You could raise capital gains tax. You could raise capital... He should say he's going to raise capital gains tax and level it with income tax and then reduce national insurance by employers.
He should reduce corporation tax to allow people to grow their businesses, which is what should happen.
Yeah, but they got... Rishi Sunak, the Conservatives had reduced it, then he put it back up and got a lot more money. Yeah, corporations are awash with cash. The
Sunday Times Rich List showed that those billionaires had indeed departed the UK. But should we stick to the the point, which is that we have a number of...
I'm not shaking a charity tin for billionaires.
I'm
not, sorry.
I'm not doing it for you.
Give to the rich. Save a billionaire.
Inheritance tax on their global earnings is the problem, I think, probably for some of them. But anyway, Daily Telegraph, though, Starmer sabotages Burnham on Brexit. Who's sabotaging who on Brexit? Why is it back on the agenda so much?
Well, it's back on the agenda because, of course, Wes Streeting made the point at the weekend that both he and Andy Burnham wanted to go back into Europe again. Kevin will make the point in my lifetime, or, you know, not now, but later. What does that say to the voters? Don't really listen about that. I'm not going to do that this time round, but I'm going to do it in 5 years' time. Sorry, what? What? Should we not be concentrating on building up the UK and growing the economy of the UK and making it actually work for
the whole
people
argument
of the
is
UK?
you'll grow the UK economy more if you're in the European Union, because you won't have the trade barriers with our big trading partners who are about 50% of our trade. And there's a 100 billion plus Brexit black hole in the economy, so if you want to grow, that's how you do it.
The rest of the world, which is open for business.
I think the attack on Andy Burnham should be, actually, you can see this. You can see it's been catastrophic. He's not going to do anything about it, or very little about it. He's going to rub some rough edges off, which is Keir Starmer's position.
That's the Daily Mail, isn't it? It's one of his U-turns today.
Well,
I mean, so the whole
for a purpose.
So why is everyone suddenly deciding to overturn it at some point? Doesn't matter when. It's still actually abusing the voters who voted for it. So I mean, she's spoiling for a fight here, Kevin. You're very brave to take it on.
But people have changed. If you look at the polls, we came out because people voted.
We'll find out if they've changed in Makerfield. We'll find out if they've changed in Makerfield.
I'd quite like another referendum. Labour's not going to promise one, but I would.
Oh, wise up. Come on, seriously.
What's wrong with democracy, Arlene? What's wrong with having a vote?
Well, nobody respected the last democratic vote, so, you know, I think we should settle dealing with the one that we've already had.
Good for Northern Ireland, which vote did stay in?
Well, that's because we did a terrible Brexit deal from Theresa May. Don't take me down this rabbit hole, because I don't think we have
my turn to wind. It's my turn to wind Arlene up.
Sorry. Sausages at this point.
I know, yeah.
Oh, yes, remember sausages?
I remember sausages, yeah.
That was Macron.
Yeah.
Challenging Boris Johnson that he wasn't going to allow British sausages into Northern Ireland.
I thought you were going to refer to Keir Starmer at his Labour conference speech when he said sausages instead of hostages.
Oh, yes, that as well.
Gosh, yeah.
I think we might just call it a quiz. Just a little wall. More top stories even coming up after this.
I urge you not to look away. If Hamas hands the hostages over, they will end this conflict. The world has been watching. Good to see you again. How are you? Did she say how he was?
The conditions are awful.
The jets were ordered to come back.
Historic day here today. How will you respond if India does launch airstrikes?
They'll be all out to war.
I'm just going to put some body armour on.
I'm Yalda Hakim.
We're taking a closer look at the newspapers now with Baroness Arlene Foster and Kevin Maguire. Welcome back to both of you. Let's go to the news about energy. We're all keeping a very close eye on it, aren't we? This is in the Daily Telegraph. Oil supplies are depleting fast. Arlene, who is saying this and how seriously do we listen?
Yeah, I have been hearing this from various people. They have been saying, look, I cannot understand why government and why our fuel companies are not taking this more seriously. And here we have the world's oil stockpiles are depleting very fast, said the head of the International Energy Agency. So, I mean, this is a serious piece of concern and should be for everybody, because obviously if the oil stockpiles are depleting very fast, that's going to have a huge impact on us all across the world.
Yeah, only several weeks left of stored supplies at current rates of depletion. Several weeks.
And this is what the regime in Tehran knows, and it's why they're keeping that chokehold on the Strait of Hormuz, because all those stockpiles will be used up. It'll be economic chaos. It'll be either formal rationing or it'll be through price. That all of a sudden the cost of your airline ticket or filling up your car or heating your business. And the new energy price, the domestic energy price cap comes out. I think it's next month. It's going to be announced for the 3 months from July in the UK. It's kind of, it's known. It's where I think the tone of Trump has changed, and he's now desperate for the deal. The war was easy to start, but he can't end it.
Yes, and the IEA describing the closure of the Strait as the biggest disruption to crude oil supplies in history now. So, although certain airlines, British Airways and Ryanair, this weekend talked about, having confidence, in fact, of their own suppliers. But, this needs to be very carefully looked at, doesn't it? The Times now, Arlene. David Lammy, Justice Secretary, is to raise the criminal age for children. It could be raised from 10 to as high as 14 under plans being considered by the government. What's your initial reaction to this?
Well, this is a very live conversation in Northern Ireland, in my part of the UK, because we have had children, unfortunately, rioting, children as young as 12, 13. And the conversation had already started about raising the age of criminal responsibility to 14. I think the Justice Minister in the Northern Ireland Assembly would like to raise it to 14, but others have expressed concerns given what is going on. I think it is interesting, she said, to look at the Irish experience in all of this. In the Republic of Ireland, they have a different set of circumstances where they have different arrangements for particular offences. Presumably, for more serious offences, they keep the age of criminal responsibility to 10 or 11, but for most it sits at 12. So they have, a different regime, if you like, for different offences.
It's really about when if misbehaviour or a crime, whether you involve the police or its social services and other interventions, what age do you do that? Now, it's 12 in Scotland, 10 in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. England and Wales, it was raised from 8 in 1963. It's not been looked at since then.
But they also say that this is down to a UN report which recommends increasing the age of criminal responsibility to 14.
14.
So it's come as an international body.
So David Lammy, the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister, hasn't said it's going to go up to 14, but it's in a Ministry of Justice
But I think it is a live discussion at the moment.
And probably so it should be.
Quick 30 seconds on Guardiola, back page of the Times. It was the Mail that started this, but speculation on what will happen to him at Guardiola, Man City.
Yeah, after 10 seasons, 20 trophies, including the title, treble, Champions League, it looks like he's finally going to go off a year earlier than his contract. It's a big moment for football. They've had a lot of Abu Dhabi wealth. It's got to be said, but their fans, who are always the poor neighbours to Manchester United, have had the most incredible time.
Yeah, nothing from Man City yet, so let's just, we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, T&Cs apply.
Yeah. I love the way you say that. Now, Kylie Minogue has opened up to Sky News about her breast cancer diagnosis. At the launch of her new Netflix documentary, she told us about her pride at speaking out on the issue.
It meant a lot to me. It still means a lot to me, and I hope it continues to speak to mostly women, but men as well, that, to be health aware, and that, like, I know in my very dark moments that I needed things to kind of hold on to, and if I've done that for someone else, then I'm very, very touched by that.
Yeah, it gives such hope to see her looking so well and so recovered, and decades now in the music industry.
Yes, I think we were reflecting earlier that her first hit was in 1987. That's a long time ago. For a lot of the young people watching tonight, that was in the last century. But for me, she's been always there right throughout my teenage years, and on Neighbours, of course, and now seeing her looking so absolutely fabulous. It's great.
Charlene, huh?
Charlene and Arlene, they're fans.
It was a moment. It was absolutely fantastic. I know it's gone now, Neighbours. The attempt at a return was aborted. But it's incredible. She's been at the top. Was it Princess of Pop she was dubbed for so long?
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to have talent to do that.
Yeah, 3-part series, Netflix, coming up later this month. Is it May? I've lost date. On May 20th, it's soon. I don't know what the date is. Anyway, there we are. Both of you, thank you very much indeed. Big range of stories to talk about. Arlene, Kevin, thanks very much indeed. Well, we've got more sport for you. Arsenal have gone 5 points clear at the top of the Premier League after beating Burnley. Taking a close look at that.
It's like a football final with only one team on the pitch. This isn't just a call to vote, but a call to remember. The freedom fought for by the African National Congress. I'm Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky's Africa correspondent based in Johannesburg, South Africa. A cyclone and 2 burst dams wiped out hundreds of generational homes. This was the second dam that the floodwaters hit before it tore into Derna. We are in the heart of Nairobi, and we're watching as protesters were heavily tear-gassed. The sheer fearlessness and persistence of these guys is astonishing. We help you understand the world with us. I remember going into the iconic Omdurman market in the heart of Sudan's capital for the first time since the war started. And this is what's left of it. Bullet holes through buildings, shelled balconies, bullet cases on the floor. I witnessed the complete destruction of a place linked to my childhood memories and the lives of millions of people. This is insane. This was a bustling residential area. So many friends who lived here. My most memorable interview was with a 15-year-old boy who'd survived being stranded on a migrant boat on its way from Senegal to the Canary Islands.
After 13 days, our food, water and fuel supply ran out.
I felt awe when we saw the mountain gorillas in Rwanda.
They call him the king of the jungle. This is the alpha silverback.
Sky News. Get the full story first. Yusra Al-Bagher, Sky News.
I bet right now you often find yourself asking why. Why was a certain decision taken? Why did something happen? Why did they say or do that? I'm Neil Patterson, and it's my job as a journalist to find out why. Just explain why.
It's a difficult one.
Well, I mean, it's massive.
It's a very, very severe situation.
So if you want to make sense of this complicated world, Sky News' new podcast, This Is Why, is your daily fix. One story every day, and we can find out why together. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist... Hi, darling.
Beth Rigby, Sky News.
...is being a Sky News journalist. You said to people, I'm not coming back for more, but you have come back for more.
Well, let's kick off.
And make a statement. What can our Prime Minister say to you to not impose tariffs?
He's coming out! What more do you need?
We're trying to see as much as we can. We're in an area that's just been reclaimed.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News. People are directly protesting. The whole neighborhood is rallied around her.
It's
has been impenetrable to journalists over the last 2 years of war in Sudan.
I've been waiting for this for 2 years. It doesn't feel like a big homecoming.
It was never going to be pretty.
War isn't pretty.
Well, let's get the latest sport now. Here's Vicky.
Our new offers are coming through the summer. Came down like last night, done the medical this morning, and delighted.
Eventually, when I did sign him, we had to pay a little bit more money for him, like from 4 million to 12 million, but he was worth every single penny of it.
Aston Villa were ploughing a lot of money into a team to try and get them into the Champions League and try and compete in the top four. We had a great core of like really good individual players, and we felt like we were equipped to go and challenge.
He was a leader straight away. He was a big voice in the dressing room.
They wanted me, and the hierarchy at Newcastle weren't too convinced in terms of their confidence about giving me a new contract. Kevin Keegan, I think the manager at the time, he was a fantastic player. I was loving my football in front of him and playing well. But you know, the people upstairs had other ideas at the moment, and that was the way it went.
Even a hailstorm couldn't prevent James Milner from practicing free kicks.
He was always questioning players if they haven't put the effort on training. He always believed that you have to train the way you play.
It was like having another coach on the pitch. That's the difference in a player like that. Players who see things, who understand things, but also can give that detail out on the pitch.
Milner! Another stunning strike!
I had a captain at the same time called Gareth Barry, and Gareth was quite quiet but led by example, and James was alongside that.
We're pretty similar characters. Where we probably differ is away from the training ground. He's not got a switch. He won't mind me saying this, I don't think he switches off as much as I did.
He's quite intense in terms of information. He'll be talking to people about if he's playing right wing and he wants to know what the right back's doing.
He's a student of the game and goes away and studies it. How does he get better? Body positions, defending.
His demand on the pitch and off the pitch was really high. We were all having a meeting upstairs in the canteen. Everybody just taking their coffees, teas. Rather than the manager, James Milner stand up. He gave us a lecture about how bad we are at training. We were all like, wow.
If we can keep improving, hopefully at some point we can crack that top four.
It's Milner! How about that? A laser-guided finish from James Milner.
Massively underrated. I think a lot of people think of him from a fitness point of view and the fittest player in the Premier League and the man who beats the fitness tests every summer, but it's so much more than that. Technically so good.
He would have, they used to say way back in my day, lived right.
Our pre-season used to be wild, and one of the days we had a day off, so we all went out, we had a couple of drinks. Obviously Matt O'Neill found out that we broke the curfew.
Vicky, thank you. Let's take a look at the weather now.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors Sky News Weather.
So there is plenty of wet weather around on Tuesday, but gradually this week it is warming up, and by Friday the temperature could be topping 28 degrees. So a mild start then on Tuesday, far milder than previous mornings. It'll also be rather soggy for parts of Scotland and northern and eastern England. To the west there will be a whole rash of blustery showers. During the morning, the rain will start to clear away into the North Sea, and by lunchtime, it'll only be clinging onto northeast Scotland. Then most places will see a little sunshine and heavy, frequent showers with the risk of the odd rumble of thunder. During the afternoon, the rain will continue to clear away from the northeast, and for most places, the showers will continue. In the southeast, though, the showers will start to fade away as we head towards evening time. Then on Wednesday, many places are likely to be fairly cloudy with a few outbreaks of patchy rain. The exception will be the southeast, where there should still be more sunshine.
All Clear Travel Insurance proudly sponsors Sky News Weather.
Well, that was the wrap. Thank you so much for watching. We have all the top stories coming up for you with Mari, including Dominic Waghorn, who is reporting from inside Iran at the scene of a missile strike on a school which killed 120 children in the city of Minab. All of that as Donald Trump has announced this evening that renewed attacks planned for tomorrow have been called off. Top stories are next.